Okay. Hey guys, happy Friday. We have a small group. We have some people probably still trickling in, but anyway, Angela, welcome. Thanks for being here. Um, I am going to, I think, start with sort of what's been going on with our group, and then what the teaching that I'm going to do today, just based on everyone's challenges. And then I want to jump into celebrations. So, okay, today's topic is going to be about school transitions, and the big question is what now or what next? So I have about four families right now in our program who are transitioning next year to a new school for different reasons. So some of them, things did not work out at the previous school, and then they are hoping to transition to a different school that would be a better fit for their kiddo. And a couple of you guys have had to do this very abruptly and unexpectedly, and I know that has been so hard for you guys for various reasons. And one of you guys that I'm talking about. Uh, is a single parent. She's had to make some changes to her job and reduce her workload. And so this isn't just about your child, it's about the whole family and your livelihood. So I really want to just talk about that because even with the four families I've talked about, we're at varying stages. And so this will help with you guys at each stage that you're in. So we're going to look at this from various from different angles here. And first, how can you start preparing your child now? I want to just, I'm a very visual person, so I'm going to share a graphic. Let's see. Let me hang on just a second. Hmm, Pull this up. All right, can you see that? If you can, or if you can't, just put it in the chat, or you can unmute. But hopefully it should be showing. You should see a comfort zone graphic. So, okay, so this is relevant to anyone right here, and this is where we all like to stay. So the comfort zone is that red circle, and this is where we talk about, okay, we feel the most safe and in control. It's also where we go to when we are seeking the path of least resistance. Uh, and for some of us who have trouble with change, or some of our younger kiddos who fear anything unexpected or unpredictable, moving out of that comfort zone to the next zone, the fear zone, can feel very startling and abrupt. So this is where it says lack self-confidence, find excuses, or be affected by others. Not only that, but even just small differences in an environment, a person, let's say a substitute instead of a teacher, or using a different classroom today for whatever reason, can be very activating to a child's fight or flight. And yet some of those challenges, when it's paced for your child to grow through and process, then that's where it takes them to the next zone. So the learning zone, this is where they learn to deal with the challenges and problems that we talked about just now. So dealing with a new teacher, a new group of friends, a new school or classroom, new rules, all that is where all that happens in the learning zone. So this is also where they acquire new skills and extend the comfort zone. So these three are so important because right now I just have a couple parents who are really, really, really struggling, and they're crossing that bridge from comfort zone to learning zone, and it unfortunately we can't bypass the challenges and opportunities. And I should also say, and fortunately, because that's exactly how we grow. We grow through very hard challenges sometimes. Um, so there's the next growth zone is the green, where when we are past that learning zone, we're finding purpose, living dreams, we're setting new goals and conquering new objectives and goals. This is what we all want for our kids. And so not avoiding the challenges or not getting stuck in the difficulties of the challenge. This is what we have to challenge ourselves to do as well, is moving through those hard things. So let's just jump in today. We talked about school, how to handle the next transitions, how to prepare ourselves and how to prepare our kids. I want to talk about four different ways to do this. So first one is closure. we need to always close the loop. There's a rhythm in learning. There's that new challenge. There's that problem solving, and then at the end, there's the outcome. And what is very beneficial in cementing how we got through that challenge is through debriefing. So what went well? What do we need to do? What challenges do we need to work on, and how? Just being very intentional. So as far as closure, I do mean this in a way of saying, let's say goodbye to old friends or teachers when there's a transition from an old school to a new school. Um, for some of our kiddos, one in particular, she's 4 and she's moving up to a kindergarten class, and she's starting to understand, or 5, and she's starting to understand that she's about to say bye to her friends and teachers, and that's difficult. And we're helping our kids through that, knowing that it's validating their sadness, validating their uh, those mixed emotions, because you could be both sad and excited and looking forward to a new year, but figuring out how to validate them consistently without trying to remove those feelings for them, without trying to reassure or say it'll be okay, you'll make new friends, but just cementing and validating that for them. You made good friends. It makes sense that you're missing them. So I use this phrase a lot. Back in module 1, we talked about notice, name, and nurture. Notice the scenario, name that emotion, nurture the outcome, nurture how to comfort them, and also giving them a couple of ideas for processing the emotion. So ideas for that could be something like making a memory book, drawing a picture of their favorite memories, writing a letter to their friends. I had someone in our public face group mention something like this, and so these were similar ideas I gave them. So that's the closure part. This is where we get to reflect back on those good memories, and then also things we might do differently for next year. Also, what can you practice gratitude with? So, Angela, I know you're on mute, but I know you and I, we just talked about so much you can reflect on from this past year. This is a great opportunity since you guys have had so much growth from last year to this year in physically writing down with Richie, even, or even typing it up, a wins list or a gratitude list. Reflect back, what all were you so thankful for this year, and letting them see this year of accomplishment that they have under their belt. And that will build momentum for next year.
Carol,
Yeah, go ahead.
to interrupt. He's already asking to see what his grades were each quarter and compares them to what he's got going on right now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he already is recognizing, and proud that he's doing well.
Yeah. And that's the self-monitoring piece that we talk about in executive function. He is self-monitoring, and there's a couple ways. I mean, that's on the trajectory of growth mindset, and and then just showing him like the work he's put in, because he has worked so hard this year, and the outcome that has come out of that. So that's really neat. Um, I had a kiddo in therapy recently, and he just told me like one thing that was really cool about the week. He said to me, "Hey, I raised my science score by this many points." And I was, "Oh my gosh, that's cool." Uh, we got into a conversation, and he named another uh, thing he was proud of from that week. And I'm like, wait a minute, pause. I got to write these 2 things down. And then once I started typing them up, he just kept coming with like 2 or 3 more things. It was something like, I think my handwriting is getting better too. Or my friend and I, we had a good time, so and so. So I typed these things up, and it's almost like the more we did that, the more he was able to notice and recall those things and cement it. Something about writing it down really helps us to have a more neutral and unbiased uh, interpretation of our circumstances, while it would, whether it's last week or the entire year, which is so important because we tend to look back and either forget or we notice the negative things, which none of those helps us with future thinking or future planning, or even having momentum to keep going and pushing through. So anyway, that was really neat, like in the moment, how it was even helpful for us then. So yes, y'all do that. First thing is closure, close the loop, debrief and look back. The second thing is using envisionment. So we talked about this in module, I think 1 and 2, but using visualization. You guys have come, this is the end of the school year. We're planning, we're thinking about the summer, we're planning for next year. Use visualization to think about what a successful year will look like for you for next year. Make it tangible and specific and realistic. So for my two boys, I'm putting them back in school next year. We have done private school, we've moved to public school and homeschool. And the homeschool has really given us the opportunity to regroup, take a deep breath, and then really be intentional with teaching our son all the skills that he needs to go into school successfully. So, using visualization is so important because we can go into anything hoping for the best, crossing our fingers, and that's like throwing a Hail Mary when we're not preparing ourselves. So using visualization actually like starts to lay the framework for um, planning, conceptualizing what we need to do for a successful school year. So when I say make it specific and tangible, I don't mean say and realistic. Your goal should not be he'll never have a tantrum or hit a friend, but it could be more scalable. For example, instead of we won't have any meltdowns in a week, we'll only have one a day instead of five a day, or um, three per week instead of five per week. And even then, that's saying what he won't do, but look at what they will do. When I like to frame it on the positive. So we will be able to manage a social conflict with a friend in a way that's not aggressive. Uh, and that in itself is a big step for a lot of our kids. So Oh, so those are a couple ways for using visualization. Two ways to look at it. The outcome-based visualization. So you're looking at the end product. You're looking at the entire year, what it will feel like, how good it will feel to you, how it may be grades. It doesn't have to be. It could be friendships. It could be just how your child feels about himself or herself. But also look at the process. So there's the outcome, which is like the macro, and then the process, which is the micro. What will each step look like throughout the year? And this can be your child is going to be able to go to his teacher and ask for help when they need help. It could be your child is going to find a seat in the room and find a way to self-regulate in when he needs it the most. And that way you have all these things in place. And the next step, number three, is to prepare and practice those things that you just visualized. So the process visualization that we just talked about. So preparing by having group huddles as a family every Sunday, have 5 minutes, or every Monday morning, 5 minutes. What will this week look like? It could be just even a quick three-step, three-word reminder. So for young kids, it could be hands to self, ask for help, use your safe spot. I mean, just one or two or all three, depending on your child's ability, just every single day, uh, reminder. That repetition is what builds those neural pathways and makes it more accessible for your child. If that's the first thing I hear in the morning and the last thing before getting to school, I'm going to be much more ready to use those because it's going to be that much more available. So that's a way of preparing. Also, prepare by using keeping in mind all the templates that I have added for you guys at the end of our platform, our modules. There are 5 different templates. One is an introduction to your child. It says something like, "Hi, this is my child. You'll notice this when he loves to," and it names all their interests. It names their strengths, and then it talks about these are things that might trigger or activate my child, and these are things that are self-soothing and help him to regulate. So use those templates when the time comes and just know that they're there. Another template that I just helped another parent use was how to reply to those daily messages from your text messages from a teacher over certain complaints, like they hit a child, or hey, the child didn't do what I asked. Sometimes those can be so much that it can be very overwhelming, but having a template and a certain systematic reply of, hey, thank you for letting me know. This is something we're working on now. We'll continue to work on it. But also, can you tell me one thing he's doing great so that I can balance out the constructive feedback with something positive? And so that also sets the tone with the teacher to know you're being intentional, and you also are aware that your child does have some strengths. So those are some ways to prepare. And then along with that, practice. Now, practice those skills with your child. We talk about social stories and role play a lot. There's something very powerful about stories. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. So in other words, a beginning, a problem solving opportunity, and the solving of that problem, the end. And having that rhythm is really helpful, but also having it in a story form where it's a neutral character versus your child being the person makes it much more safe and less threatening for them so they can absorb that and learn it better. So the point of social stories and role play is to teach a skill, especially when your child's kind of vulnerable and not wanting to learn from a framework of them being the person who did something wrong. This can make it much safer for them. Another visual is, we talk about this a lot, also visuals like checklist, schedules, and calendars. Angela, you and I, we've talked about using a calendar for Richie, using a calendar to show we have this many more weeks of school, just so they can see that rhythm again and seeing the passage of time. But also letting them, that helps them to learn how to start managing their own schedules. So, okay. So far, we've got closure, we've got using visualization, we've got prepare and practice, and then lastly, our own mindset. This is a big one. So Rhonda, you've kind of shared with me that it has been very hard going from the transition of abruptly having to pull your child out to now figuring out what the school for him that will be a good fit and with availability. So in the meantime, this summer, I really want you and everyone in here to practice and work on our mindset. We've got to tell ourselves that just because we are not there now doesn't mean we will not ever get there. Angela, you and I, we talked about this last week or the week before. Our children will get where they need to go. We just have to pace the trajectory for them. We can't rush them, and because that sets us up for failure. But if we know that we'll get there and pace ourselves through it, then that sets the tone for being able to learn from mistakes in order to get to that green growth zone that we're talking about here, the yellow and green one. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So something else about our mindset is noticing when we're saying things like, I can't handle this, or what the heck are we going to do with my child? I don't know what we're going to do. What if? That is, that may always be in the back of our mind, and it's okay to, oh, there's Rhonda. Hey, Rhonda. Glad you're here. Hey.
Is I know exactly what I'm doing here. Oh, yes.
Hello.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Hi, Caroline. I can't see you, but I could hear you. I didn't know if you could hear me or not.
Okay, let's see. I can hear you. I can't see you. It looks like your video is off, and that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, there you
Let's
are.
see if I can find
Oh,
if I
good
can
deal.
find that spot in my house.
That's okay. Yeah, I know it's hard there. I'm glad you're here. We were actually just talking about the topic being what next? School transitions. And I'm so glad you're here because you're not the only one. We have about 4 families transitioning to a new school next year. 2 of them are
Oh boy, it's so
by
hard.
choice. They're they're going up a grade, and the other 2 are let's just say that they didn't have as much of a choice. And that can be very overwhelming and stressful when something comes that abruptly and you have not had time to plan. So we were just talking about how our mindset can make a big difference. Angel, I'm just going to go really briefly over what we talked about. Wherever we are, there we go. There are going to be times of ease, and then there's going to be times of challenges. In either scenario, we have an opportunity to really lean in and grow, especially the hard ones. So right here with the growth chart that you see, it's called it's named the red part is called the comfort zone because that's where we all like to be. We like to be safe, secure, where everything is predictable. Everything is something that we're already skilled in. This is just natural, like the path of least resistance, where we want to be. And yet that's not where we grow. So how does growth happen? Fear zone. We have to move through that fear zone of new skills, unexpected things, things are out of our control. And yet we've got to manage how we approach that. We got to manage it with our kids. We have to manage it with ourselves. So pacing it. And we'll get back into that in a minute. But after that comes the learning zone. When we are present and available and helping our kids to cope through stress, helping our kids playfully problem solve situations and challenges, we're slowly moving them towards the learning zone. This is where they're dealing with challenges, they're acquiring new skills, they're coming out of their comfort zone. So yesterday I was working with a 5-year-old who had a tube of bubbles, and she was running and she was so excited about the bubbles, but she ran and she fell and dumped half of it out. And I was just waiting for a big tearful outburst because she has a pretty short fuse that we're working on. But she said, I'll just pour some water in there, which was such a big deal for her. It was showing creative problem solving. It was showing flexibility. It was showing that she could manage that disappointment in the moment. And here's the other thing. Once she filled it up with water, which I kind of suspected would happen, it didn't work quite the same way. And yet I didn't want to say, no, let's not do that because I wanted to pace her through trusting her own instincts, trusting her own ability to problem solve. So once she filled it up, blew it, it didn't quite work. And she said, oh, well, I think it'll be fine. My mommy won't be mad at me. Uh, It was just the self-talking that brought her through that next distressing event, which was really cool. So Rhonda, I'm sorry. I know your internet is going in and out, but I'll send the recording after this so you have it. But anyway, that was just an example of moving through the discomfort, learning, and then the growth zone. And the more we do those type of things, whether it's a 5-year-old or any age, the more we're moving through the growth zone, because we're always faced with challenges. So
the best. Mhm.
so that's a quick example of that chart. But yes. So I'll send the replay, Rhonda, but we were talking about 4 things to help you guys transition from where you are now to next year, where you want to be, as far as helping your child navigate school and new things. So one of the things was closure, which is closing the loop. You and I were just talking about that, saying goodbye to friends, goodbye to teachers, making a memory book or drawing a picture of their favorite memories, just reflecting on the things that they're grateful for, that they can celebrate in spite of the challenges, because we can always hold both in life. We can find something to be grateful for, and we can face the challenge and know that we're working through it. So what we're trying to build in our kids is an ability to figure things out, to problem solve, or to find a resource to help them problem solve. That could be us as adults, teachers. It could be looking things up online, whatever the challenge is. But just knowing that the challenge is not the end. It's just something to move through. So closure. Number 2, using visualization. 2 types of visualization. The outcome. So we're visualizing a year of growth. I'm already using this for my 2 boys when I put them at the school that I will next year. I'm visualizing them smiling. I'm visualizing them being in groups with other kids. I'm visualizing them climbing trees. These are all things that we want to visualize very specifically to make it very tangible. And even to the point where you can even feel what that will feel like for them, the sensation of joy, the sensation of playfulness and silliness, being with friends, but also visualizing the process part of it. The process means the small daily things that they will go through. How will they deal with conflicts? I can see I'm visualizing my boys having conflicts, but then navigating it themselves or going to a teacher to ask for help. I'm visualizing myself speaking to the teachers, how I'm going to present myself. I'm not going to be huddled over like this scared. I'm going to be shoulders back. I'm going to have a friendly look because we're on the same team. Like visualizing all of these things very specifically, you're laying down the framework for how are you going to follow through with what you're going to do. So that leads us to the next step is prepare and practice. Knowing all those things we visualize and what we want to happen, we're going to prepare for them. So prepare by using a group or a group huddle sort of idea. Every every Monday morning with your child. Hey, what is the week going to look like? Hands to self, ask for help, use your safe space. I'm just throwing out examples, but using that same exact framework every day or every week to help build that repetition so that your child can do that. Group huddle can also be weekly touch points with a teacher. Hi, can you tell me one thing we need to work on? One thing he did great. And then doing that, having that rhythm every week, having a flow so that it is already in place, that it's a system that you can come back to instead of something that reactive where, oh, we have to deal with this problem today because it just happened. Okay. Review the school templates that I have at the end of the modules. There's 5 of them. One talks about how to respond to text messages, teacher complaints, things like that. Another one is an introduction to, hi, this is my child. These are their strengths. These are their challenges. This is what helps them cope. These are some things that might trigger them. So the more you can plan ahead of time, the better you'll be able to set yourself up for success in your child. And then practice. Practice all these things with your child, social stories and role plays. What does it look like to manage a social conflict? What will we do when a friend takes a toy from you? And this can be anything. Grab the nearest thing you can grab. Hey, that's my toy. I need it back. No, I'm gonna go get some help. Miss So-and-so, can you help me? Sure. Again, these are very playful, 10 seconds max, 20, 30 seconds. You're doing it playfully. You're not telling the child, hey, you need to do this. You're using objects to make it more neutral and safe for them to learn from. Same concept as social stories. You can look these up online. You can look up library books. There are so many relevant to whatever topics you might be looking for. And at the end of the day, if you can't find anything, make it up. Draw a picture and then show your child what to do when this happens. And then we talk a lot about visuals, calendars. Today we're going to have school, come home, dinner, school, come home, dinner. So having again that rhythm, anything predictable, routine, all of that builds in safety for your child so that when the unpredictable happens, they're much more able to face that. So again, we're moving them like this chart from comfort zone gradually through fear and learning and growth. And it happens over time, a long time sometimes. And Rhonda, we use this phrase a lot. Not now doesn't mean not ever. My other phrase that I like is it takes as long as it takes. My boys are 6 and 9. They're just now starting to bathe or shower by themselves. And I just thought it would never happen. And then one day here they are showering by themselves. And then we get to celebrate it and use that to remember, okay, the next thing that I know they'll never be able to do, I know they will follow through and get to do it one time on their time frame with our help. So the last thing we had closure, visualization, prepare, practice. The last is our mindset. Our mindset needs to be pretty solid when we're managing something as stressful as, where's my kid going to go to school next year? Who's their teacher going to be? Are they going to be kind? Are they going to handle this new school? Our mindset needs to be, my child and I will be able to figure this out no matter what happens. Or I can handle it, or he can handle it with my help versus what am I going to do? I can't handle this. And any of those type of thoughts, because our thoughts will make us more creative or they'll make us shut down and more rigid, depending on what we're telling ourselves. So decide ahead of time, mindset wise, what thoughts and beliefs you will cling to and what you'll decide to let go of. Okay, that was a lot, and I just recapped a couple of times. I want to pause. Do y'all have any questions so far? Or any thoughts or takeaways? Okay. Just with that said, I would like to leave you guys with just a scenario this week. And this is out of the context of school that we're talking about, but I just wanted to bring this up just because there were a couple parents that were struggling with this week, but their kids were starting to quote unquote regress or just go back to some aggressive behaviors. And I actually had a chance to sit down and talk with a teacher too. And I'm really glad I did because it just reminded me of how important it is to keep going back to what we know. So the scenario for this kiddo was that he was starting to be more aggressive. He would push kids out of line so he could be the first. He would grab things from his classmates. And so I was asking her, she showed me what she did. She made a list of things she does with him in these situations. One of them was to sit down and talk about his feelings. Another one was read a book. Um, and then the third one was to talk about Minecraft. And it was interesting because she said when I tried to sit down and read a book or talk about emotions with him, he shut down. He wouldn't have any of it. And I said, this makes a lot of sense because, and I'm going to stop screen sharing with this one if I can, because I want to show a different one. Oops. So basically, she would, in this state right here, when he was at this big roller coaster peak where he was starting to go up to the top and he was at the top, the dysregulation zone, that's when she was trying to read to him and talk about emotions. And what I reminded her was when we are in that heightened of a state of emotions, whether it's fear, mad, anger, we're not working from the front of the brain where we have control and logic, which she was trying to use with him. We're working from the back of the brain, which is where survival happens, fight or flight, hitting, screaming, shut down, running away, elopement. And so there was a mismatch in their communication. So what I said to her was, it's just like us. When we get angry, we yell, we might kick something, kick a door, slam a door, and we feel a little bit better, don't we? Even though we know that's not what we want, how we want to act. And the reason why is because when we're at that heightened, we are needing to get these big body movements so that we can push those sensations out, the energy, the cortisol, the influx of all those chemicals that are causing us to do what we're programmed to do, fight or flight or freeze when we are under distress. And so I reminded her of three things. Tearing paper, like I grabbed some paper to show her. Letting her kid, you can ask them, I wonder if you'll karate chop this or show me how mad you are with a marker. And I've used that with so many kids. Some of them will grab a marker and just scribble all over. Another one will karate chop it or karate kick it. So all of this is such an easy thing. You can have paper anywhere. It doesn't take up space. You can have scrap paper in your kitchen in a drawer. You can have it in the living room on the side table or in your child's bedroom. Anytime you sense your child starting to do this uptick, getting triggered, you might say, hey, I sense your body so-and-so. You can karate chop this or punch it. Or in the moment when they are so dysregulated, they're not even absorbing what you're saying, you can simply hold up the paper and say, here you go. This has worked so many times for me. It's almost my first go-to at this point. So you can frame it as, show me how mad, and they can punch or kick it. Another one is a pillow. Same thing, Rhonda, we've used this before, is a pillow. We have an open floor plan. I usually just grab a couch pillow and I'll say, here you go. Pretend this is so-and-so. I know there are people who would say, no, don't say pretend that's your sister or pretend that's me. That is for me okay because it's the next best thing. It's the next smallest alternative to hitting us or hitting another person. You can hit this and pretend it's me, or just say you can hit this. But you're showing them the next appropriate behavior they can do rather than aggressing towards someone or being destructive with property. So anyway, paper, pillow, and then the last thing is a paper box, cardboard box. There's been times where I'll have it in a closet and I can pull out of it or pull it out and I'll tell my sons, you can jump on this, stomp it flat or rip it. And they have entirely torn up a cardboard box where there were tiny little pieces this big. And I'm okay with the mess. What happens was you could see them completely up here with their emotions to like this slow down regulation. So number 4 over here where it says calming down, that's when they're regrouping, their brain is coming back online, and you're pacing them through that. So just remember when your child is like completely dysregulated, keep the talking very low, keep the stimulation low, whether it's lights dimming down, taking away noise, maybe moving them to a different area, and then using those 3 techniques, just pick one. But after that, when they're back down to normal, number 5, that's a good opportunity for reteaching and debriefing. Maybe not in that moment, but maybe even the next day, you might say, "Hey, you really calmed down a lot after you were punching that the karate chopping the paper or punching it." That's something we can start using each time you need. I'll always have it available right here. So that again closes the loop and sets them up for the next time so that they have that experience, that opportunity to learn from. And one of my kids at work, we actually just used that same scenario this week when he got frustrated trying to build a puzzle. He wasn't successful right away, and he started throwing the puzzle, throwing toys. And I immediately pulled out the paper and said, "Ooh, show me how frustrated you are." And he started karate chopping. And after that, he started coming down like much quicker than I thought. And this is where we use the debrief next. I said, "I wonder if you want to make a video to show your mom." And he was like, "Yeah." So we actually redid the scenario and made a video. And he said, "Mom, this is what I learned to do when I'm mad." And then he started karate chopping. So what that did was it added another layer of reinforcement. And then another because now his mom has the video and he can watch it and watch how he went through that process himself and feel capable and confident. Hey, I did that. I've taught someone else how to do it and I can do it again. So anyway, that was exciting to see because you can see him just a light bulb going off in his mind and seeing he went from like 100 to like down to 20, 10, and then was very playful about it when we made the video, all in one session, 45 minutes. So yes, I hope you guys can use those strategies. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I still use the pillow technique here.
Good, good. You're welcome. If it gets boring, novelty always works. Novelty, like I said, with other objects. There's a beanbag I think you guys could use. Yeah, things like that. Do y'all have any challenges or things you want to troubleshoot? Anything you want to share?
Caroline, I just want to add something from a personal perspective of when you're when things happen that you have no control over at school about no choices or you wonder what's next. One thing that I have to take time for myself is to grieve that loss because from my personal perspective, I had an idea of what AJ's school scenario would look like, how his school days would be spent. And it's the rug's pulled out from under us many times. And this is a final pull out, I think, this week or last week. So it's a grief, whenever you're having expectations or hopes for your child and you've worked very hard to set that up for them and then it still doesn't work. It's a grieving process before I can even start the planning process for what's next. And so, somewhere in the middle of all these unexpected changes, we have to give ourselves time to experience it and heal and then recover and plan. That's just the way I feel about it anyway.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Thank you for sharing that because we don't want to invalidate our own experience and jump into trying to problem solve and plan. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. I've learned that self-compassion and self-validation are one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves and our kids. Yeah. I'd love to hear how you this week or just recently, what all you have done to help yourself grieve through that, if you're open to sharing.
Well, I've had a lot going on. I have my mother here and we're my sister's visiting. So our house is disruptive right now. And our routines are disrupted. So I did have a quiet day yesterday with just me and AJ, and it seemed for us both to have that time alone. Um, it's together seemed like we could just put our heads together and be together and not really verbalize it so much as just to be with each other. in a safe place, our home, and to let things settle in and settle down. Um, I did, I'm learning to do the steps that are required of me right now. Like I did the application for the Learns Act, and it was like that's the struggle for me to do this online application when I'm not in the right place myself with things. But I got that done. And so I could check that off my list. And um, I I think just giving myself some time. And I think this week was the week for myself just to have the time to settle in and regroup. And then I'll take it up again Monday of what's next. So I think allowing myself some time and to spend some time with AJ by ourselves, because with my mother living with me, our caregiver here, my sister visiting, it's just been disruptive. So having a peaceful day to ourselves was wonderful. And
Yeah.
then allowing myself, I got the thing done that had to be done. And then say, pause, we'll take this up again on Monday. So
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That is so powerful. Eh, Just in light of what we've talked about, you're pacing yourself through your own big emotions of, yeah, disappointment, sadness, uh, loss. There is a sense of loss there. Your hopes and expectations and friendships from the school itself. Yeah, that's you're being very observant and aware and mindful of your own needs, which is very powerful. And then I love that you said you can still move, you can still take action, and you're aware of what action that was needed to be taken. That one small step of completing that application. Yeah, that was hard and you did it. It was just one step that was practical and needed. And now you can, like you said, pause. You're pacing yourself. That's wonderful. Yeah. Angela, did you want to share anything? And did you want to share just some encouraging words? Because you've been through a little bit of similar situation and you guys are on the other end.
Yeah, it is nice to reflect back and all the progress that's been made over the year. Um, we decided to pull Richie out at the beginning of this year from his school because we were just tired of hearing about his behavior and him keeping the other kids from maybe learning. And nobody was really worried about, well, what are y'all doing to help him? So and because we were doing everything we could, so we changed schools, and I think he started his new school after they had already been going a week, maybe two. And because he of this new school has smaller ratios, and just the teacher seems so willing to go out of her way to help and work, and it's just made a tremendous difference. And he literally went from low D's and a couple of F's to all A's and B's. And he's proud of himself. And yesterday morning we were running late and I didn't think I was going to have time to do his reading. And he was very concerned. He said, "Oh no, we have to get my work done." And this is like a totally different kid. Normally he wouldn't have cared about his work at all. But he's taken pride in it and it's just been great. So don't fear. It's scary, but you have to just keep hoping. And I'm nervous about next year because he's going to have a different teacher. And what if she's not as you know skilled at dealing with children like him.
Yeah.
thank you for that encouragement. And sometimes change is a good thing. Change is hard, but then many times change is good. So I'm just going to embrace change as it comes.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
I love that. Makes me really happy to hear. And also it helps to just notice there's going to be challenges that come. And when we are ready for those bumps in the road, then we can manage them much more. But also just having the certainty that we will get there. Our kid is going to get there too. And we're supporting them the best we know how. and together. So, well, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for sharing, and it's a lot, and you guys are not the only ones, and there's other parents who are also facing same transitions. And so anyway, I'm glad we got to have this discussion today.
Thank you, Caroline.
Welcome. Well, you guys have a good Friday, a happy Friday, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much. Have a
You're
good rest of your day.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.